Hey guys, thank you so much for checking in. You've already hopefully come to Honors English and looked on the class wall with information how to get here to this video. I do want you to know that there is a link to a Zoom. If you guys want to look in the comments, below that, there's a link to a Zoom that you would just need to copy and paste into a window. If you have any questions and need to connect with me during our class time, that would be wonderful. Couple things. We're going to just kind of worry about what we've covered and what was due on Monday. You had an assignment that was due about the author, 2-column notes. I gave you guys that little 3-page article and asked you to write a couple big ideas per section, per paragraph. We kind of outlined what those different things were. What I'd like you guys to do, if you're able to do it, is take a picture of your notes, or if you did your notes as a document, I'd like you to try submitting them to me through LMS, not through email if possible. Right now it says this assignment will be turned in offline while I'm filming this. It's actually Monday night, right before Monday Night Football. I am available if you guys need me in real time. Please Zoom me or email me. Email address is there on the class wall as well. I am going to change this so that what you guys will see on your end is a little plus sign or an orange arrow or something. You just click it and upload your PDF or your document. Now, for making PDFs, I hope that you know how to do this. If not, it's a wonderful wonderful thing to be able to do. You can take a picture of pretty much anything and make a document out of it. A lot of places nowadays with COVID ask for just pictures of driver's licenses or other documentation. It's just kind of the way that things are working right now. But if you have an iPhone and you go to your Notes app, just start a new note and click the camera icon. It will ask you if you want to scan documents. You just click that and it does a really nice job. There's another good app called DocScan that you can download, I think on both Android and iPhone, and take a picture of it. iPads, same sort of thing with the notes. You can save documents that way. Some printers have scanners on them. It's just really good to know how to do that, especially on these remote days, which we're having a remote day earlier than expected. Anyway, the whole point of that is if you're able to do that and turn it in, I will give you some bonus points. Otherwise, it will just be due whenever we're back together, which will hopefully be soon. But yeah, that's just a little bit about where we were. It is a half-hour class, so we're not going to do a ton today. We are going to take some more notes. What I'd like you guys to do is go to 7 Influences in Tolkien's Writing Notes. And it gives you, I need to fix this again, 5 influences in Tolkien's Writing Notes. I was wrong on the number, so I have changed it once, but need to change it here. Anyway, when you guys click it, it's saying students should turn in at least 2 big ideas for each of the 7 influences from Tolkien's writing, which will be presented via video because of school being canceled again. You can create a document with 7 ideas listed and at least 2 big ideas under each influence, okay? So set for each influence 2 big idea notes. Just listen to the things that I say and read, and just 2 complete thoughts underneath. It can be bullet points, it's fine. When you are done, push, it's either an arrow or an orange plus symbol. You click it, and you'll attach your notes and send it to me. And I would like you guys to do that today. It's going to be worth actually 14 points, okay, a point per note. And I know that this will be set up where you can actually turn it in because it says no one has turned in an assignment. I'm going to check it tomorrow by the end of the school day. I'd love it if you just got it done during this half hour. So go ahead and you can pause if you want and open up a Word document or get out a piece of paper. I prefer that you just do documents and type it up. today, since you guys are actually home. But if you absolutely have to handwrite some notes, you can do it. And they don't have to be T notes, the 2-column notes. I keep calling them T notes. You can do it that way, but you could just actually write down the influences and a couple bullet points underneath. However you want to do it, the 2-column notes is just one of many strategies we're going to use. And I promise that we're going to do more than just take notes, but with 30 minutes and really wanting to introduce Tolkien and the Hobbit well, and all these things you're going to be quizzed and tested on eventually. So anyway, go ahead and get ready to take some notes. Pause if you need to. See how long this takes to load. So 7 influences on Tolkien's writing. You learned a lot about him and saw some of that, learned a little bit about his life. This is just him. He was actually a professor, college professor, and was very inspired by a lot of different things that he read. The first thing that you're going to want to write down, the first influence, was what's called the oral tradition. And before civilization and languages were written down, people still told stories. That is a primitive instinct of human beings, to love a good story, to tell them. And I hope that you guys still like stories. I love a good story. I'll probably tell tons of stories that I think relate to what we're learning, or be reminded of some kind of rabbit trail. I love a good story. And you guys probably have stories that are popular to you from when you were a kid: Three Little Pigs, Rumpelstiltskin, Little Red Riding Hood. Basically, lots and lots of stories before they were written down in books like Grimm's Fairy Tales, Arabian Nights, Greek myths. They were passed on orally, from person to person, from generation to generation, and then people eventually wrote those down. And Tolkien, you will notice this as you read his narration, you'll notice right away that this really sounds kind of like a grandpa or a dad telling a story to his kid as they get ready to go to bed. It's really just a beautiful thing that he does. And you can see that in his writings very, very much. Next, we have what's called faerie, not to be mistaken with fairy, even though they're kind of related. You have a fairy in the middle there, but you have all kinds of other mythical creatures. And fairy just refers to a dangerous, magical, enchanted realm that overlaps the human sphere. And basically, a good fairy story in Tolkien's mind was human beings coming into contact with these different spirits and creatures: dwarves, elves, dragons, ogres, gnomes, elves, okay, witches, wizards, goblins, dragons. I think I said dragons twice. I like dragons and find them interesting. But that is the realm and the creativity that really inspired Tolkien. And before you go dismissing this and saying this just isn't very realistic, Tolkien was an intense believer that stories like this, that involve secondary creative worlds, should be closely enough related to the real world to teach lessons and make illustrations there. So that's the second influence, is faerie. Number 3 is myth. And there's all kinds of mythology. Every culture and civilization has their own mythology. If you study American history, there's actually Native American myths. It's not just all Greek myths. This is actually a picture of Perseus and Medusa, which, if you don't know that myth, you'll learn more about that sophomore year when we do our mythology unit. But that comes from Greek mythology. So Tolkien himself was more inspired by Norse mythology, hence all the big beards and the guys that look kind of like they could be in a Thor movie or whatever, the armor and just the style. and architecture and things like that very much came from Norse mythology rather than Greek myths. But that really shaped his writing very much, was the idea of myths. Okay, so myths are basically just traditional stories about the relationships between mortal beings and the supernatural realm, not really the fairy realm, but the supernatural realm of gods, goddesses, wizards, monsters, different things like that. So the combination of fairy and myth really play a part in the worlds that Tolkien created. Now, that's a picture of me. Just kidding. I do like flannel. I do have a beard. I do have a nice splitting mall like that. I do not have a hat like that, though. And I do not tower over the clouds, although there are clouds of smoke really at every level, and I kind of tower over that. But anyway, that is the legendary Paul Bunyan, who's very famous in American folklore. Davy Crockett would be another example of folk tales. Pecos Bill in the southwestern United States. Every culture has their own folk tales, like I said, but a folk tale is just a traditional episodic narrative that was transmitted orally, often through songs, ballads, okay, between cultures. Some other examples of folk tales would be Puss in Boots and Hansel and Gretel, and they're often termed as folk tales as well. That was number 4. Number 5 is the heroic epic. And you may be saying, hey, that's a picture from The Hobbit. If you know the story, it's actually not. Believe it or not, Tolkien took some inspiration in The Hobbit from the first ever epic poem written in the English language. It was actually written in Anglo-Saxon Old English, and it is a story called Beowulf. And in that story, there is a dragon that the hero Beowulf fights. But an epic hero is a long poem that just tells of the heroic deeds of a warrior or courageous ruler. And he represents the ideals of a certain people, culture, or nation. And he's a light and an example. You guys are going to read an epic poem or parts of an epic poem called the Odyssey about the deeds of Odysseus. And those stories really greatly influenced Tolkien as well. And really, epics were important to cultures. And Beowulf, if you take British literature junior year, you'll kind of understand why that was so important to the history and culture of the British people as well. So 2 more to go. The next one is not really a type of story, but a literary device or literary element called motif, not motif, but motif, okay? Like if you go to the western part of the United States, people have motif than people in the South. I'm totally kidding, okay? Everyone knows that people lose their teeth quite a bit up here in the Northwest because of different issues and bad lack of like fluoridation in water. But anyway, this is not a science lesson. A motif is just an idea that reoccurs over and over again. It's closely related to theme, which is the message that a character or that an author is trying to get across through the writing and through the story. A motif is actually kind of like the party theme. When you have a party theme, if you have a Frozen themed party, you're going to see Anna and Elsa and Olaf and Sven and just different things, ice sculptures, all around the party. A motif is just an idea that, or an object that reoccurs over and over again. Okay. And in The Hobbit, just to give you some, I've already kind of given you some idea of that. Just the idea, the abstract idea of comfort is a huge one. The idea of greed, home, people like looking and longing for home is just a huge, huge idea. Okay. And surprises, okay, things that end up being surprising, unexpected. Those are all things that tie into his writing. He really liked motifs, and you'll find as you read his stories, there's lots of objects and ideas that reoccur over and over again. That's why he so often gets called a Christian author with his stories, just because of the spiritual abstract motifs found there. The final one, and I like this one when we just look at everything that we're doing right now, and I want to move this so you can actually see it, even though it's probably really blurry right there. A quote from J.R.R. Tolkien that says, "You can only come to the morning through the shadows." Okay. After the darkest night always comes the morning. Okay. You've heard things like that. Okay. There's birth pains before childbirth. Really, the idea of eucatastrophe is this is actually a term that he created. EU actually means good. Okay. So it's like good catastrophe. Well, really, what he's talking about is that unexpected, joyous, glorious things happen. Redemption takes place when you least expect it. So look for those unexpected turns of fortune for Bilbo and for the dwarves in this story. Look for that in life, you know. I do want to get too preachy. Darn it. I'm so happy to tell you guys that, you know what, all the smoke outside right now, and the COVID, and just the frustration and all the things going on in the world, it's not the end. It's not the end. Christ will return one day, and I hope that we're all ready for that. And he's going to make all things new. He's going to erase all the things of the curse. No more disease, no more viruses, no more forest fires and pollution, no more death, no more having to take notes to prove yourself to your teacher, because you'll know it and you'll have it and you'll know everything that you need to know. Good things can come out of difficult situations. And I hope that even though the last however many months and this last few days with the smoke have been frustrating, you guys can see some positives and some good that comes out of it, because it's always there. There's always blessing after the trials, in the midst of trials. But anyway, that is really Tolkien's influences, those 7 things. So please just make sure that you have at least 2 big ideas per influence, and submit those either through document or PDF on LMS. Hopefully we'll be coming back to school soon, and we'll be able to just pick up with some other things. If not, let's be ready again for some more remote learning, and I will instruct you that way. Again, reach out to me, email me if you have any questions. I hope you guys have a fabulous day.